Hi guys, welcome to the 5th episode in this series, which offers hints and tips on how to play as heroes and villains on Galactic Assault on Star Wars Battlefront 2. If you are enjoying the series so far, please leave me a like and also subscribe if you want to see more of this weekly content. In this video I will be showing you how to play as Finn, and the first thing I should say is that all the footage you see today has come after Finn's recent nerf. And I'm going to start today by outlining the details of this nerf, before then moving on to discuss how Finn should be used with this nerf in mind. Finn's nerf was confirmed at Battlefront's most recent update, which was released in mid-January, and it has two main elements. First of all, the base damage of Finn's primary weapon was reduced from 65 to 45. Also, Finn's Deadeye ability has taken a slight hit. Each Deadeye shot has been reduced from 40 damage per shot to 30. In my opinion, whilst the nerf clearly reduces Finn's damage output, importantly, it does not actually change how you should play as Finn on Galactic Assault. I still have had lots of success playing as Finn since the nerf, without actively changing my playstyle, and hopefully you will see this in today's footage. Now we have got that out of the way, let's consider Finn's abilities. Finn's Big Deal ability sees Finn buff his own health, as well as teammates in the vicinity, in much the same way as Yoda's Presence ability. When this ability is active, it does slow Finn down until the ability ends. Finn's Deadeye ability effectively gives Finn's gun an auto-aim feature, meaning all enemies within range, who are also not behind cover, will be hit by Finn's shots even if you are not aiming at them. Finn's last ability, Undercover Team, sees Finn equip his secondary weapon, which is effectively a fast-firing semi-automatic pistol. When the ability is active, Finn has taken off enemy radars, he can also run quicker and is able to see nearby enemies. Finn also has 600 base health. Finn has a number of significant strengths that make him a very versatile hero in Galactic Assault. First of all, his Big Deal ability is absolutely fantastic. It massively boosts Finn's health by 120, and it also boosts his allies' health. As far as I'm aware, the ability can boost heavies up to near an astonishing 400 health points. It also comes with other benefits. When active, this ability also grants damage reduction, shorter weapon cooldown times, and faster ability recharges to Finn and his teammates. All of this means that Finn can quite literally swing battles in his team's favour when he uses this ability at the appropriate times. Finally, this ability also increases the rate of fire of Finn's blaster, while simultaneously removing the need for this weapon to cool down, which again gives Finn greater offensive attributes. Finn's next strength is his Deadeye ability, and it's pretty obvious why. By auto-locking onto enemies, Finn is able to damage enemies with every single one of his blaster shots fired when this ability is active. Particularly for newer and less skilled players, this basically reduces the amount of skill required to use Finn. As long as you are looking in an enemy's direction, every shot you fire will hit. Finn's final strength concerns his blaster. It is by no means perfect, as the next part of the video discusses, but what is useful is the scope this comes with. It basically means Finn is able to aim at enemies who are really far away. What's unique here is Finn, with his Deadeye ability and his long-range rifle, is well equipped to operate at all ranges effectively. Overall, he is a man for all occasions, and quite frankly, he is always a solid hero choice on Galactic Assault. Finn does have a few weaknesses worth considering when playing Galactic Assault. First of all, his gun is only moderately effective. It has low damage output, and unless you're nailing headshots all the time, it will take you 3 shots just to take out a specialist, which is the weakest unit in the game. Couple this with the fact that the gun also has a relatively slow rate of fire, and this means that enemies will have plenty of time to either flee behind cover before Finn can deliver a killing blow, or they can fight back and do lots of damage to Finn before he eventually kills his enemy. Because of this low rate of fire, it can also be difficult to hit moving enemies. It took me a while to learn how to lead my shots with Finn, and this definitely means lower skilled players may struggle to use his blaster effectively, if they're not using Deadeye. Secondly, Finn also has low base health at 600, meaning that he is pretty much always vulnerable when his Big Deal ability is not active. Couple this with the fact that he is also pretty slow, and the result is that if you get overwhelmed when playing as Finn, then it can be very difficult to either flee or fight back without dying first. Now let's consider how to use Finn effectively on Galactic Assault. I would always encourage you to get up close and personal when playing as Finn. However, this tip comes with one crucial condition. Only do this when both Big Deal and Deadeye are active. Let me give you a clear example of what I mean. If you are behind cover at one end of a corridor, and you know that lots of enemies are attempting to push down the corridor, it is no good running out and trying to pick off enemies with just your primary weapon. As we have already discussed, Finn's primary weapon has pretty low DPS, and considering he only has 600 health, you won't last very long using this strategy. A good Finn player will do the following. They will first of all activate Big Deal, giving both Finn and his allies a pretty huge health advantage over aggressive enemies. The player will then follow this up straight away by activating Deadeye before peeking out into the corridor and holding down fire. Remember, it is not necessary to aim here, as Deadeye automatically locks onto the closest enemy. You'll often find that you'll clear out most, if not all of the enemies before you need to get behind cover again. But as long as you keep an eye on Finn's health bar, then you should be able to judge how long you can stand toe to toe with your enemies for. The reason that this is most effective at close range is simply because Finn's Deadeye has a relatively short range lock-on radius. So if you really want to make the most of this ability, which is fantastic, you have to stay close to the front line. By utilising this strategy, you will find that you score lots of kills and eliminations, whilst also providing fantastic defensive support to your teammates. It can be really hard for the enemy to successfully clear out a room or corridor if there is a good Finn player holding it down. All this means that Finn is a fantastic team player, and you should always be contributing to either defending or attacking objectives. I guess this is pretty similar to what I said in my Yoda guide, although in my opinion Finn has far greater offensive capabilities than Yoda. I should point out that this strategy is far more effective when used in covered areas, where there is less chance of being flanked. For example, if on a map like Crate you are standing in the open attempting to use this ability, even with Big Deal active, Finn will take a lot of damage from enemy troopers, vehicles, and things like AT-ATs. Bearing this in mind, in situations like this, you should also spend time honing your long-range skills when using Finn. I found that once I had really mastered Finn's primary weapon, I was scoring quite a few kills from range. This means that whilst you wait patiently on a map like Crate, for the second and third phases, where Finn can really draw on his close range effectiveness, you can utilise his versatility by taking a back seat, whilst still registering eliminations, by effectively sniping and playing more conservatively. Finn is a fantastic counter to some villains, and this is again because of his Deadeye ability. He is particularly effective against Boba Fett, as Finn can lock onto him whilst he is using his jetpack, and considering Boba Fett's low health stats, you can usually take out Boba in seconds if you manage to get into range. More generally speaking, he is basically effective against all villains who cannot block, which is everybody with the exception of Vader and Ren. I've been in situations where I've stood toe to toe with Darth Maul, who has been repeatedly hitting me with his lightsaber, while I have stood there, Deadeye and Big Deal both active, firing back, and I absolutely destroyed Maul without losing much of my own health. Of course, a good Maul player should have been using his spin attacks to outmaneuver me, but the point is that villains who underestimate Finn's abilities at close range are gravely mistaken. In fact, in this video I include some footage from Naboo, which usually favours Emperor Palpatine quite heavily, and yet I managed to take him out twice in one game with Finn's Deadeye ability, and yeah, that was unbelievably satisfying. One thing I should warn you about, be very mindful about getting too close to Vader and Ren in particular, as they have the ability to either choke or freeze you, and if this happens, you'll more than likely end up dead. You're probably wondering why I've not spoken in great detail about Undercover Team in this video. To tell the truth, I don't use this ability that often, although it does have some uses. First of all, it's great in situations when you feel that Finn is getting overwhelmed, or if he is not close to any teammates. If this happens, activate Undercover Team, This will take you off the radar, and it will speed Finn up considerably, meaning that you have a far greater chance of getting away. There are also occasions where I use this to flank enemies, however I don't recommend you do this too often, as when the ability wears off, enemies will very quickly realise you are now isolated and vulnerable. And remember, whilst the ability is cooling down and lots of enemies are advancing on your position, then you also have no effective way of fleeing until Undercover Team is available again. And yes, that means you just played yourself, and you are fully deserving of your inevitable death. That's going to be it for today's video, guys. I hope you enjoyed it, and I hope it improves your game when using Finn. If this is the case, please leave me a like. Next week, I'll be covering Iden Versio. Please subscribe if you want to keep seeing this type of content in the future.
Follow my lead. Wow! Feels like our lucky day. All right. I've got this.